Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, the podcast that takes, those really dense academic papers and makes them surprisingly interesting. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
You know how we always talk about the future of business and what's changing? Well, today we're going to take a deep dive into one of the most interesting trends I've seen lately, B2B subscription commerce.
It's pretty fascinating stuff, right? I mean, the way businesses buy and sell is undergoing a major transformation.
Absolutely. And we actually got some research called Examining Drivers of B2B Subscription Commerce in Digital Ecosystem using Fuzzy Cognitive Mapping.
That sounds pretty in-depth.
Oh, it is. And don't worry, we'll break it all down.
Yeah.
But basically, it looks at how businesses are shifting from one-time purchases to these ongoing digital relationships.
Yeah, it's like instead of just selling a product, you're selling a whole experience, an ongoing service.
Exactly. And the cool part is that this study uses this method called Fuzzy Cognitive Mapping to sort of map it all out. It's like creating a digital roadmap of this whole changing business landscape.
I'm intrigued already.
Me too. All right, so first things first. When we talk about subscription commerce, what exactly are we talking about? It seems like everything's a subscription these days.
Right, you've got your streaming services, your meal kits, your software, even your razors.
It's true. So what makes it different in the B2B world?
Well, at its core, subscription commerce, or SC, is about moving away from those one-off transactions and towards recurring services and ongoing customer relationships.
Okay, so it's not just about getting someone to buy something once. It's about building a long-term connection.
Exactly. And it's not a new concept either. Believe it or not, publishers were using subscriptions to sell books way back in the 17th century.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's kind of come full circle.
Exactly. But now it's evolving and taking on a whole new role in the business world, especially with the rise of what we call everything as a service, or SaaS.
Okay, so that's like software as a service, cloud computing, all of that.
Exactly. And by 2024, the global SaaS market is projected to reach like $334.3 billion.
That's a lot of as a service.
It is. It shows just how much businesses are moving towards this model of subscribing to services rather than owning everything themselves.
So it's about flexibility and scalability.
Absolutely.
All right.
And it allows businesses to focus on their core competencies and outsource other things to specialists.
That makes a lot of sense. But I'm thinking about those big companies that have been around for a long time, what we call legacy incumbents.
Right. The ones who haven't quite fully embraced the digital world yet.
Exactly. How are they adapting to this whole subscription commerce and SaaS explosion?
Real challenge for them. You know, they're used to operating in a world where they're competing with products.
Not data.
Right. But now with this shift towards digital ecosystems, data itself is becoming a source of value, even revenue. And that requires a totally different mindset and way of operating.
So it's like they're having to learn a whole new language.
It is. And a lot of them are struggling to keep up.
So if data is the new currency, like we always hear, what does that even mean for these companies that are used to doing things the old way?
Well, imagine you're a company that's been successful for decades selling a physical product. You know, something tangible.
Like a car or a washing machine or something.
Exactly. Now, suddenly you're in a world where your competitors aren't just other companies selling similar products, but also companies that are leveraging data to offer totally new types of services built around your product.
Okay, so it's not just about the product anymore. It's about the whole ecosystem around it.
Exactly. And legacy companies are having to figure out how to play in that new ecosystem.
So what does that ecosystem even look like? Can you paint a picture for us?
Think of it as this complex network of interconnected businesses and individuals, even objects, all interacting through digital platforms, like a giant web where everyone's connected.
And data is flowing through this web.
Constantly. And those who can control and leverage that data have a huge advantage.
Okay, so for those legacy companies trying to find their place in this digital ecosystem, where do they even begin?
One of the biggest challenges they face is a lack of digital infrastructure. You know, they haven't built the systems and processes needed to really participate in this new world.
So they're at a disadvantage from the start.
In a way, yes. It's like trying to compete in a Formula One race with a horse and buggy. You need the right tools to succeed.
Okay, so that they need to upgrade their ride, but where do they even start?
Well, one of the most important things is to develop a strong API strategy.
APIs?
Yeah, application programming interfaces. They're essentially the digital connectors that allow different systems to talk to each other to exchange information.
So they're like the bridges between different parts of the digital ecosystem.
Exactly. And without those bridges, it's almost impossible to function effectively.
Okay, APIs are the bridges. But building those bridges sounds expensive and complicated.
It can be. And that's one reason why we're seeing the rise of these B2B subscription commerce providers. They act like these specialized construction crews who can come in and build those bridges for legacy companies.
So they're like the experts in digital infrastructure.
Yeah.
Exactly. They offer the expertise and platforms that these companies need to connect with the digital ecosystem without having to start from scratch.
So it's like they're providing a shortcut.
In a way, yes. They're helping legacy companies catch up and compete in this new digital world.
So these B2B subscription commerce providers are kind of like the bridge between the old world and the
They're more than just a bridge. They're like the oil rigs of the digital ecosystem.
oil rigs. I like where this is going.
Think about it. Legacy companies have all this valuable data, but they don't necessarily have the tools or the expertise to extract and refine it.
So they're sitting on a gold mine, but they don't know how to dig it up.
Exactly. And that's where the B2B subscription commerce providers come in. They come in with the specialized equipment and knowledge to help them tap into that value.
Okay, I love that analogy. So how does this actually play out in practice? What are the benefits for both sides?
Well, for legacy companies, partnering with a B2B subscription commerce provider gives them access to all those specialized technologies and expertise without the massive upfront investment of building it all themselves.
It's like they're getting a head start.
Absolutely. And it also allows them to move much faster, which is crucial in this rapidly changing digital world.
Speed is key.
It is. And on the flip side, for B2B subscription, commerce providers working with these legacy companies provides them with a stable and recurring revenue stream.
So it's a win-win for both sides.
Exactly. It's a symbiotic relationship that drives growth in the whole ecosystem.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this fits together. But now I'm wondering, how do we even begin to predict what's going to happen in this rapidly changing digital world? It feels like things are constantly in flux.
You're not wrong. And that's where that research you mentioned comes in, specifically the part about fuzzy cognitive mapping.
Right, that's the digital map we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a way to model these complex systems and try to make sense of all the different factors at play.
So it's like a crystal ball for the digital ecosystem.
Not quite a crystal ball, but it's a powerful tool for understanding how different decisions and actions might play out in this complex environment.
I'm definitely intrigued. Can we break that down a bit further? How does it actually work?
Yeah, let's dive into that. All right, so fuzzy cognitive mapping, or FCM for short. It's kind of like creating a digital model of the B2B subscription commerce world.
A digital model.
Okay.
So like a simulation.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. It lets you see all these different factors like market conditions, customer behavior, technology trends, and how they all relate to each other.
So you can tweak one thing and see how it affects everything else.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a what-if tool for business strategy.
I like that. What if? So what kind of scenarios did they actually explore in this research?
One of the scenarios they looked at was maximizing a company's product catalog. You know, like what happens when a company drastically expands the range of products they offer through their subscription service?
Interesting. So instead of just focusing on a few key offerings, they're going all out.
Right. And FCM allows them to see how that decision ripples out across the whole ecosystem.
So it's not just about having more products. It's about understanding the impact of that decision on things like operations management, customer relationships, market position.
Exactly. It's about seeing the big picture.
Okay, so maximizing the product catalog was one scenario. Did they look at any others?
Yeah. They actually developed a whole framework for examining multiple scenarios.
A framework, what does that mean?
It means they created this system where they could adjust different parameters like market conditions or competitive intensity and see how it affected the outcomes.
So they could simulate different possible futures.
Kind of. It's like having a virtual lab where you can test out different business strategies.
That's pretty cool. But all this talk about digital ecosystems and simulations, it's making my head spin a little.
Yeah.
How does this translate to the real world? Like, what does it mean for the actual people working in these companies?
That's a great question. And it's something that's often overlooked in all the excitement about technology.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's people who are actually making these decisions and implementing these strategies.
Exactly. And this shift towards subscription commerce and digital ecosystems is having a huge impact on the way people work, the skills they need, the roles they play.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the human element.
Absolutely. And for those in legacy companies, it often means adapting to new ways of working, learning new skills, and getting more comfortable with technology.
So it could be a pretty big adjustment.
It can be, especially for those who have been doing things a certain way for a long time. You know, change is never easy.
That's true.
Yeah.
But Are there ways to make this transition smoother, to help people embrace these changes rather than resist them?
Definitely. One of the most important things is to create a culture of learning and experimentation within the organization.
So, encouraging people to try new things, to be curious, to not be afraid of making mistakes.
Exactly, because that's how you learn and grow. And it's essential in this rapidly changing digital world. You can't just stick with what you know. You have to be constantly adapting and evolving.
Makes sense. So what about working with those B2B subscription commerce providers? What advice would you give to companies who are considering partnering with one?
My biggest piece of advice would be to do your homework. Really take the time to understand the different providers out there, their strengths, their weaknesses, their track records.
So it's not a decision to be taken lightly?
Definitely not. You're essentially choosing a business partner, not just a vendor. So you want to make sure it's the right fit, both culturally and strategically.
Okay, so choose wisely. But let's shift gears a bit. We've talked a lot about the challenges of adapting to this new digital world. But what about the opportunities? What are some of the exciting things that this shift towards subscription commerce and digital ecosystems is making possible?
Oh, there are so many possibilities. One of the most exciting things is the potential for innovation. With all this data and connectivity, businesses can create entirely new products and services that we haven't even imagined yet.
This is like a whole new frontier.
It is. And it's not just about creating new things. It's also about improving existing things, making them more efficient, more personalized, more customer-centric.
So it's about raising the bar across the board.
Exactly. And it's about creating more value for both businesses and customers.
I like the sound of that. So for those legacy companies that are feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of this, what's your message to them?
My message would be, don't panic. This is a big shift, but it's also an incredible opportunity. Embrace the change, be willing to experiment, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
So it's about seeing this as a chance to reinvent yourself, to become a better, stronger, more adaptable business.
Exactly. It's about evolution, not extinction.
Love that. Evolution,
Yeah.
not extinction. That's a great way to put it. We've covered so much ground already. The rise of subscription commerce, the challenges for legacy companies, the role of these B2B SC providers, even the fascinating world of fuzzy cognitive mapping. Is there anything else from the research that you found particularly striking or insightful?
What I found most interesting is how this research highlights the importance of strategic planning in this new landscape. Legacy companies can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. They need to be proactive, develop a deep understanding of the digital ecosystem, and map out a clear roadmap for the future.
So it's not just about surviving. It's about thriving in this new world. And that requires vision, foresight, and a willingness to embrace change.
Exactly. It's about looking beyond the immediate challenges and envisioning the possibilities that this new digital ecosystem offers. The companies who can do that will be the ones who succeed in the long run.
We often hear that phrase, data is the new oil. But after this deep dive, I'm starting to understand it on a whole new level. It's not just about possessing data. It's about knowing how to extract it, refine it, and use it to fuel your business.
Yeah.
Just like those B2B subscription commerce providers who are acting as the oil rigs.
That's a great analogy, and it leads to a really thought-provoking question. If data is the new oil, what other untapped resources might be out there in the digital ecosystem just waiting to be discovered and leveraged?
Ooh. Now that's a question worth pondering. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is the whole concept of collective intelligence.
Collective intelligence.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of sci-fi.
It might sound futuristic, but it's actually happening right now. Think about all the data and insights that are being generated every second through social media, online communities, customer reviews, all of that.
So it's like the wisdom of the crowd, but on a massive scale.
Exactly. And businesses are just starting to figure out how to tap into that collective intelligence, how to use it to drive innovation, improve decision-making, and even create entirely new products and services.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing. But how do you even begin to harness something that vast?
Well, it's definitely a challenge, but there are tools and technologies emerging that can help. For example, AI-powered platforms can analyze huge amounts of data from all sorts of sources to identify trends, patterns, and insights that humans might miss.
So AI can help us make sense of all that data.
Exactly. And it's not just about analyzing data. It's also about creating the right environments for collaboration and idea exchange. Think about online communities where customers can share feedback, suggest improvements, and even co-create products with companies.
So it's about building those digital spaces where that collective intelligence can flourish.
Precisely. And I think we're only scratching the surface of what's possible with collective intelligence. It's a really exciting area to watch.
It definitely sounds like it. This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on the future of business. It's not just about selling a product or a service anymore. It's about creating a whole ecosystem and experience a relationship.
I agree. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about business. And it's not just about technology, it's about people culture and a willingness to embrace new ways of doing things.
And it seems like those B2B subscription commerce providers are playing a key role in helping companies make this transition.
Absolutely. They're providing the tools, the expertise, the guidance that businesses need to navigate this complex digital landscape.
But it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, right?
Not at all. Every business is unique and every digital transformation journey is different. That's why it's so important to choose the right SC provider, one that aligns with your specific goals and values.
So it's about finding the right partner for the journey.
Exactly. Someone who can help you chart the course, navigate the challenges, and ultimately reach your destination.
Makes sense. But let's zoom out for a second. What does all of this mean for the future of business as a whole? What are the long-term implications of this shift towards subscription commerce and digital ecosystems?
Well, I think one of the biggest implications is that we're going to see a continued blurring of lines between industries. As businesses become more interconnected, traditional boundaries will start to dissolve, and we'll see more collaboration, more cross-pollination of ideas, and ultimately more innovation.
So it's like the whole world is becoming one giant marketplace.
In a way, yes, and that presents both challenges and opportunities. The businesses that can adapt, embrace change, and leverage the power of the digital ecosystem will thrive. Those that cling to outdated models and ways of thinking will struggle.
So it's a call to action for businesses to evolve or risk being left behind.
Exactly. And it's not just about technology, it's about people culture and a willingness to embrace a new way of doing business.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I feel like I have a much better understanding of the forces shaping the future of commerce. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they continue to explore this fascinating world?
I would just encourage them to stay curious, to keep learning, and to never stop exploring. The digital ecosystem is constantly evolving, so there's always something new to discover. Embrace the change, challenge the status quo, and never be afraid to ask, what if?
What if indeed?
Yeah.
That's great advice. And on that note, we're going to wrap things up for today. And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more captivating deep dives like this one. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.